Hello! Hi everyone, and welcome to another Kareem Dreams stream on the green screen.
Yeah.
Just I almost made it through that perfectly. Cool. So we are back, and Kareem is going to be continuing his amazing sealord sculpture.
Brilliant.
Kareem, what's your plan today? Like, what's your goal?
I was thinking just as you're talking about, what is my plan? I admit today is, and one of the, I don't really have a plan as much as continue is the plan. The major thing that I liked about what we're doing here is that it gives me a chance to work slowly and respond to the what I'm seeing, like I think the nice thing is that because we leave this for a while and come back to it after a month or a couple of weeks, so it's quite a good thing really. You see your asset with fresh eyes. I'm going to close this the views. It's very useful, the visual gray thing, when you zoom in and you have everything else in gray. I find that more useful in scenes and stuff like that, where you really want to focus on the element or the tire on a car or something. But I think in anatomy and stuff like that, it's different. You actually benefit more from blending of things together. So now I'm just working on the leg muscles using the soft blend, and I think last time what I did was I decoupled a lot of these limbs. They all default as live clones, but now they are not. So each limb is unique now. So these are all. See, now I'm the good thing about this stage of the process is that it's quite meaningful, where every stroke or every addition is building on the previous stuff. This is a good place to be. I think I mentioned last time that light helps me a lot in knowing if I'm on the right track or not, because I know how the light should fall on the body. So when there is things that are, the shadows look weird, then I know that there's something odd going on. So now we're basically just adding muscles with the soft blend, blending all the areas together, this to that and this to that. The magic of the human body is that it's so flowing. Everything flows from one to the other in such a magnificent way. It's the ultimate sort of like machine designed for like moving and everything. So everything and all our aesthetics, I think, or a lot of what we consider elegant shapes and stuff come from nature's rationale. All these functionalities are. So now it's just a matter of going around the body and tidying it up.
And then we're gonna cover it in armor. Was that the?
Yeah. Then we cover it.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yes. Which I think, but of course because these videos are going to, and we're putting them on our YouTube channels, and I think Tom was maybe he did it already. He was going to put them in those multi-parts ones we're going to put them beside each other. So you see part 1, part 2, part 3. So if you are someone who's interested in the anatomy, you see that bit. But if you want to go straight to the armor, then you can go to video 5 or 6 or whatever it is. It will end up becoming not necessarily used in the same order, but anyone who's been with us from the start of this has seen the journey as a whole. I particularly like, I was talking with Mark today about this, and he was saying he prefers, if he would do a create demo, to have some preparation of it's almost like a rehearsed script of what he will be doing, and then go through it all. And these are very useful way of doing things. What I did in here, I knew that from the start we had a design of a sculpture that we wanted to do, but more other than that, we just we go through the, all these things that I'm doing right now. You can't really have a plan for that stuff other than sculpting. It's a sort of, it's a slow act of, but now the muscles are really nicely going on top of each other, and I can see, the bits that need smoothing. And it's nice now that, when as I don't know if you will notice, but as you see, like, the light is starting to fall on the guy nicer. Of course, in anatomical books and things, they're always over exaggerated for knowledge reason, but the truth is always like that, a little bit less prominent. It's got skin and on top of it, of the muscles. So I turn the mirror on now, but I'll turn the plane off. So the one of the best sculptors of anatomy of all time, of course, is Michelangelo. And in Florence, there are, in the Academy gallery, there is the David, the original David, not the one in the middle of the piazza. But what I like in that museum particularly is that there are the unfinished slaves. And the unfinished slaves are basically like big monumental slabs of marble. And he died before he finished them. So you could see how he was carving out of the stone, the rock, and that's very different than what we're doing here. What I'm doing here is adding, while what he was doing was only removing. It's one way. You cannot, if he removes more than he needed to, he's stuck with it. The last sculpture he was working on in his life was a Christ, and I think he kept carving into the sculpture, kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more slender. I never finished it, but it does happen to even Michelangelo, that he could over sculpt and then have no way back. Like after that, centuries later, like with Rodin and people like that, need to switch off the mirror now because there's a twist here. I certainly prefer the easier route, which is the ability to sometimes add, sometimes you can remove, rather than only brutally having the choice that you can only remove. Francis tried once in Dream to sculpt by only carving out, and I think that's the head in our gallery. in the gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all done in removing only. He took it as an exercise to see, and he got a very good result.
Kareem, who is your biggest inspiration in the sculpting world?
Michelangelo.
Figured that was...
Yeah, Michelangelo, and then Rodin. I like Bernini as after that is the following. Degas, I like Degas sculptures. Degas really not known for his sculptures. The only sculpture that he exhibited when he was alive is the one of the ballerina girl standing wearing a skirt, and that's it. The only one he exhibited in his life. And then when the guy died, they found in his studio a lot of horses and poses, and they were very unusual. They were very dynamic for sculpture. Sculpture was so much more static than that, and his name was much more associated to his pastels and not really known as a sculptor, but his sculptures are very good as well. I definitely think that that era of sculpture, and we hope to attract sculptors in Dream as well as modelers, which I think are different. 3D modelers as a term is a discipline that came from CG and 3D modeling, and not all sculptors in the real world are modelers, and not all modelers are sculptors. But I think in polygonal modeling, you almost have to engineer your form. You have to plan it and engineer it, which doesn't appeal to all sculptors. Like what I'm doing here is basically most of my mind is thinking only about the neck and the back and that sort of thing, and I'm not really concerned about the surface topology, whether it's made out of polygons or triangles or whatever. Well, all these things you spend a lot of your time thinking about in CG modeling, which I think takes a little bit away from the act of sculpting. It's sort of a dense back. Right. I wanted to sort of see if I can do some work on chest. Was alright, but little bit here. And of course we can also, if we have a chance, we can put some of the... This is a nice relationship between the shoulder and the chest muscles here. So that's when the difference between the right and the left is very... Because this one is held in front of him, it pulls the chest muscle with it. These are now the nice little accents that sort of make the pose more alive. And then we'll get... Okay. What else do we have? Other side. It's rib muscles. Come. such a nice stage. Like I think the period before, like last session, might have been a little harder than this one. This, when you get close to the surface, or at least not harder or easier, but I think we're definitely now working with the what we have. So it's informing a lot.
Kareem, someone asked where you learned so much about sculpting. And anatomy and muscles and all the rest.
It's an ongoing thing. Like one of the most useful things is life drawing. So I do life drawing and painting all the time till now, since I was a student up till now. And of course, you observe from the real body, and you draw it and paint it over and over and over and over. So that's the first thing. And then I have also got a lot of anatomy books. There's so many of them and out there, and there's good ones and not very useful ones. But I also went through a lot of those. And when I mean went through, I mean like copied them religiously. Sort of you draw. So, you draw for a long time without even understanding. You just draw and copy like, almost a forger. You're just copying. And then after a while, you start understanding what you're copying, and it becoming more meaningful. But for a long time, you just do it blind, like memorizing a song on without really fully understanding why it sounds amazing, but you're still learning it. So for a long time, I knew I liked the body and superheroes and comics and all that, and then I was just copying, and then after a while, you start understanding what is going on in the form as well. I think painting and sculpting are very different disciplines. Like, sometimes you could be a good painter and not able to do good sculpture, and vice versa. If you look at Rodin's paintings, and drawings, they're actually, odd. They look like they're pretty, and really, but he draws them like a sculptor would. He just wants to kind of solve a problem more than really spending any time rendering. His rendering all lives in the real 3D domain. And again, painters do a lot of things that aren't sculptural, like they will do play with stylizations that are only because the painting medium allowed for it. Like an illustrator might do a lot of scratchy sort of scribbly things that are dynamic and fun around the movement, but not necessarily translate to any real world volume. So there are different things. I think what came naturally for me first was the drawing, and then the 3D was the latter thing came after that. It's and we're still learning. Really, it's never ending marathon. Now, as well, I think style is an interesting problem. Like, and someone goes like, how do you stylize a statue? Like, why am I doing like at this point, sometimes these hard shapes and these soft ones, and what decides and what's the criteria? And I really think, for me anyway, I like style to be uncontentious. Like, I am only trying to do my shorthand of the anatomy. I'm only thinking about the form, but these cuts and things are happening more subconsciously, and but they're not. I find it much worse if you're trying to go, okay, well, let's put some cool faceted cuts now. That always doesn't lead to something good. Like, I think they need to be almost coming out of necessity and function, even though they are aesthetic, but they are trying to still play a part in getting that shoulder looking more correct. It's not only just, but as a result, it might have my own accent taste, and that could be considered style. What one chooses to accent versus another is maybe how I define style in sculpture anyway, especially in anatomical, almost representative. Like next, we could also next time do more stylized, evidently stylized, very funky, and then that would give us more liberty. Like that fish at the bottom will when we come to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that might be a nice excuse to play with style.
I know people are very excited for the armor side of it too.
Let's do
So
it.
we can start there, and then we will get to because you know what?
Yeah.
We're gonna need to get you some reference photos for the fish ahead of that.
Yeah,
Find something
yeah.
really epic to do with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so let's begin putting some new sculpts and begin with our armor. So I'm just gonna save for the moment. Click save. And of course, the anatomy stage can go on longer and the head can be better, but I think in the name of proceeding, it might be at an okay place to move on.
It's pretty great. I'm pretty impressed.
Thank you, everything else you've kind. Okay, so we'll pick this gold color for the moment, or maybe
Ooh, gold armor.
gold armor, like sort of. See, we can change it later, but at least so we can see it better. Okay, and then what will I start? I'll start with the turning mirror on. Just put some stroke. I'll actually do it on grid sometimes, even though I know I'm not doing anything architectural or anything, but you never know. If you start it on grid and like that, it might come in handy later. So
I feel like John Beach would agree with you there.
Yeah, John Beach would approve. Okay. So I'm now just going to build the sort of hip part, because everything will hang from it. And we will the value now of having the anatomy that we are building over, and because it's a sealord, we'll try to keep some of his guns, but yeah, just cover. I was looking at the designs of the Aquaman and that sort of thing, and
I did notice, and you just took a recent trip to Comic-Con.
yeah, that was amazing. I really had a good time, and we went and saw Dream there. It was wonderful to see lots of people playing and the different games. And the cool thing, of course, as you all know, with Dreams, because all the screens are insanely different from one another. It looks like the Dream Pod is all games kind of thing. You would never think it's one game. That was fun. But in Comic-Con, it was wonderful. Me and Mark and our kids went and were amazed by all the costumes and the wonderful effort that people do.
You sell some good cosplay.
Well, we didn't, but we saw.
You dressed up yourself, didn't you?
No, we didn't dress up ourselves, but we were so mesmerized by the people. People were did some incredible outfits.
Who's your favorite character? Like, what's your Aquaman? Like, what's your favorite comic book
Superhero.
character? Yeah.
Good question. I always liked, when Batman as a character is an easy answer. But I think because they were drawn so well and by so many legends, you end up liking the sort of. I think because of its noir as well and dark nature, the stylizations that came out of Batman were very geeky and cool for my taste. I like a lot of what has been like the Dark Knight Returns and these sort of books were great and Year One is, but yeah, there is one of my favorite. I always liked sort of Conan and these sort of old traditional fantasy ones because artists like Frank Frazetta who championed it were really drawing and rendering in ways that nobody ever saw before. Like those book covers that came in America in the 60s were literally like nobody could has seen anything like that, and the sort of obviously now when you see them they're a bit shallow, but I think they are still amazing, and I don't mean it in a sort of snobby way. I just mean it in a subject matter. It's not it's like a hero, a big monster, a sort of but I think to capture such a sort of a full genre, a full universe in a okay, so he's got like a faceted pants. It's good for me to sort of do that bit. If you look at Iron Man and a lot of these suits, they always have the midsection sort of a bit quite similar. Right, I have an idea now for the sides. I had wanted to do a spiky sort of. I use soft blend. Alexander McQueen and a lot of fashion designers are very, very much like sculptors. They are just wrapping the body all the time with fabric and that. So costume design really is literally just what I'm doing here. It is wrapping around the body, and because we spent a long time sculpting that body and sort of understanding that pose, so now we kind of have the same, almost the same rationale, sort of make a very thin spiky bit. How am I gonna do that? Gee. I'm going to elongate it and then cut. It's nice to always, like I think we said last time, to have more and then you cut from it. Get some cool, sort of unexpected. It's very essential as well to not be afraid that you do a cut that then peels a bit of your form. You can always go and just fill it back in. Like never. I think sometimes it's a good tip because sometimes decisions are made. No, I'm not gonna make that decision because it's gonna cut that mouse or nose. It's all right. Like it doesn't matter. You just put it back in again, and you probably will put it back better than it was the first time. Sometimes you make a bold decision and then you can't return it back as good as you had it before, but it's much rarer than you'd think. It's always better when you revisit something and try again and see it's sort of the body underneath is governing my choices and everything. This sort of spiky. And you can see like that's what, because it's a monumental kind of character, we're sort of doing strong battle armor type looking thing. And it's almost anatomical. It's almost as if we're modeling really. If you look at a lot of Roman armor and lots of that, it's another body really, just more stylized. Like Iron Man's suit is just like a body but mech top, So in a way, this is the same rationale of the body, because it's wrapping around the body, but then it has these kind of sticky out bits and stuff which we can respond to in a interesting way.
Now, how, like, is your plan to do this really detailed and then kind of build the other sections out of it, or do you go for more of like trying to get it sort of all the armor on first and then go back and do all the fine detailing? Like, what's your approach?
I sort of do everything in a sort of the same detail as a whole. Like, so we'll do the whole armor to a decent form, get the form of the armor nice to that level, and then when we look at it as a whole and we like the suit, you can dive in again and then put some ornamentation and stuff like that. But I would never ever do that. I would never take this to the finishing line ever. Like I've just, because I know for sure that the next part will have effect on this part.
Right.
At least I belong to that school, and actually I've seen the other way of like work as well, where someone will build this and just take it to the very very end and then go to the next part and the next part and the next part, and it works perfectly for them. But I think I like kind of revisiting basically. So it's sort of, I've got that here, and then I want to do another, so I work on the top part another bit now. And of course, because he's in a pose, so it's gonna be interesting. It's cool. I have okay, so to make it a bit darker so I can tell which is which. Okay. So now the midsection. Actually, I want to, because midsection, I can do it out of this.
Yeah, smart.
Okay, and then we can make it, add some uniqueness to it. Sort of shell-like or under the sea-like. But you'll see how it's almost inspired. I did a drawing which I'm working as well from, because I think you know, drawing is fast faster than form, and you know, you could make use. I think they definitely are useful to play together and help one another. Most sculptors will have little diagrams and plans. They don't have to be rendered nicely, but it's nice to sort of have a rough idea of, you know, what do you want to try, and then, you know, you might go off plan, but at least you have something to start with. So we have,
Well, much like you have your board here, when Pablo's done streams for us as well, he's just taken a gray wall in the Dreamiverse, just painted on what he wants to make, his little reference photos, and then works from there. So it's in scene. It was kind of like a moment when we saw him do it, but it's really smart.
inside the level. So he has a mood board inside the
Yeah, he just set up a wall, drew it on there with a paint tool, and then
I see.
and then so he had the actual reference in the level behind him, which was really good.
Amazing. Okay, now the leg armor. Leg armor. Do we need mirror? No. This one now, metallic.
Shiny it up.
Shiny. Or maybe this one. This one, yeah. It's a bit better.
Someone asked how much reference material you're looking at. I'm just going to do my best to attempt to describe it. I think Tom may have posted it when we started doing this a long time ago. But Kareem has drawings of the pose from every different angle, as well as like photographic reference for the musculature and the feet.
And that's
and everything
me.
that he's been sculpting. And it's him. It's him. It's pictures of him, selfies.
Yeah. I took myself. It's very weird, like, you know.
You use what you have, you know?
Use what you have all the time. But it's insanely useful, especially like with things like hands and feet and stuff like that. It's just, you know, impossible to do them without reference.
Yeah, and then Kareem also has a reference for the kind of armor that he wants to make. So sort of the beginnings of what you're seeing right now, he's got that from the back and from the sort of front and side. So he has reference material for the armor, and then he also has reference material for tentacles. Yeah. So that's going to be a very exciting addition.
We'll do the, because we had the tentacles on this this character from the start, so I wanted to add some detail to them. Okay, right, that will do. Just bulking it with some cylinders, and then we carve into it basically. Again, it's nice because we have the body underneath, always to try to make use of that. So I think they do that very nice and successfully with you know, Iron Man and all these. They really feel like they have all the anatomical awareness.
Yeah, and if they don't, they just sort of spray paint it onto the costume, so you can get all the contouring.
Yeah.
One of my first like adult jobs was working at a company that did the costume for. I was one of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. It was like it was like the first one, I think, where he just looked like really buff in it, and so they had it in the office, and you could see all the different tricks that they had done on the material and the fabric to like make him look super buff. It was really cool.
Wow.
Like all the sort of shading that they had done on the actual material. It was really cool.
It is amazing. Amazing what they do. But yeah, that's actually very similar techniques to when you are doing battle armor and like the Roman sort of outfits, and that they all had that sort of exaggeration of the anatomy going on. And I think it's nice, this sort of like faceted. I'm trying basically to go in the forms as well that I'm putting and building, making them as close to the body as possible, so they look like sort of the muscles are extending into this. And we have the same idea that we did in the. So it's sort of, if we did one trick like that, is almost like our one of the modules of the design, and then I'll sort of keep going with that.
So you're virtual blacksmithing.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, like, if I do, I think this leg element will, if I do it well enough, it will be useful for the arms and everything. We'll reuse it. So try to get it as a sort of modular.
Thermometer friendly.
Yeah. But also you get that a lot in armor, you know, sort of the same design repeating. Yeah, a nice shape. But it's interesting, like this is basically sculpting around, and I like that we spent some time on the body underneath, and now we're sort of designing the armor, but I'm it's benefiting so much from that body. It's the body is really making me do certain shapes that I could not have if I had just a normal biped underneath, and I'm sort of trying to cover it up in this. It's very unlikely that I would have done necessarily these volumes. And you know, the it's cool as well, because I definitely didn't know, or I still don't, where I'm going with this, but it is, I like personally being one of the people that get surprised in the end by the experience, you know. So we are all in the same. I really enjoy that. I enjoy that. I enjoy not knowing. You know, we plan as much as we can, but it's nice to see. Like I like when I'm going to, once I get this bit as interesting as possible here, I will show you how I will reuse it elsewhere, and then we'll get some serendipitous.
Cool. I'm going to give you like your 15-minute warning.
Okay. Thank you. So we've got this bit. Let's see if we can put it on the other side. His mad sea shorts.
Sea shorts.
How we go? Yeah, so it's kind of boom. because I scaled it. I messed it up.
Tom Dent, who is not here at home, Ed, claims that he has just heard his Halloween siren. Was that the maniacal laughing that just came over from your side of the room?
Something went off. I think it may have been my phone. But yeah, there was a...
Well, there is a...
Did you
No,
sit on
A
it?
little
You might have.
Halloween.
Oh, it's down there. It may have fallen off the beanbag.
I think it fell off the...
I heard it too, and I was like, "What is going on?"
No, this was different. I think your phone was laughing. This is a...
Phone was laughing at me.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a stream last year where we just had like all this big build up, and Tom thought this was more of an air horn, and then when it went off, it actually didn't work. So it was a big finale of nothing. And now he didn't even get to use it this year. So I'm sorry, Tom.
Oh, it's so disappointing.
Is it like growling or burping?
It sounds like it's just running out of batteries. Maybe that's what it was. Like, it's randomized, right? That's what I think it...
This is great. Our stream room is filling with random props.
Things we can confiscate from Tom.
Cool. So I copied it a few
And
times.
yes, that is Ed on audio today.
Hello.
Ed is not still dressed as Pig Detective.
That's what you think. Underneath these clothes.
Cool. So I'm blocking the top part.
Say medium molecule can make 2 jams at the same time. Short ones last 14 days and bigger ones. That is actually something we have been talking about later on, which is building features to make the community jams able to support multiple jams at the same time, so bigger or smaller. So that's actually something we'd really like to do. Comments from chat.
That was really fun. That long jam that we did.
What was that?
Things are just falling down over there.
Spooky.
Yeah, we're really looking for some cool things to do with jams. We have a bunch of ideas. We'll be talking about them going forward. I have one in particular I really want to do.
What?
Well, I really love the idea of playing Exquisite Corpse with the community and having people like pass things from like one person to another. So like everybody would like start something and pass it to another user, and then they'd have to pass it to another user like over a period of time. So you'd get these like cool collaborative projects.
Brilliant.
That'd be really fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With a sort of some theme or something, or just pass.
Yeah, maybe. It's sort of like one of the things just taking shape in my head right now. So, but yeah, a bunch of stuff like that.
I
So
love that.
Team-based jams.
Yeah,
That's really
sort of
nice.
team jams.
It's cool. You take just a piece and then you sort of mold it into.
He is very spiky.
Yeah, the spiky, don't get close to that.
And some people say like I'd like very specific jams. The Biv just said like build a spaceship or build a kitchen appliance. Yeah, that's the like I think as we expand that feature in Dreams, we would really like it to support smaller jams, bigger jams, more specific jams, and really build that out so that there's kind of always something going on with them. Past just like the 2-week ones. Definitely a place that we have been putting some time and effort.
Something John and I wanted to do at Molecule, which we haven't done for some time. I think we did it a very long time ago. Was the idea to make a little Robot Wars type jam, where we would build sort of contraption without the other people knowing, and then just let them have at each other. So it'd be a artificial intelligence sort of robot jam.
Oh, cool.
Oh wow.
That'd be fun. But yeah, if people have jam ideas, like we're always open. We'd love to hear them. It's something that we keep. It goes on an ongoing basis. So
It's nice as well in the same spirit. If you have a big map, a movie or a film, and everybody continues.
Yeah.
So you do a movie and then you leave it on a cliffhanger, and then next person carries on the story.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's great.
That'd be really cool. Yeah.
If we had like a 12-month jam where like each.
Well, that's basically what the Exquisite Corpse is.
Yeah.
When I was looking at, I was kind of looking at other places that had done them, and I found that there's actually one that's been done by a bunch of famous authors at the Library of Congress, where they like have this one that I think has been like, it goes on for like 12 months or something. So it's a really extended one where everybody just keeps like adding the next bit of the story. It's really cool.
Absolutely. I think as well, the thing I love about this sort of approach to design and art and storytelling is again the meaning that comes out of things that haven't been planned from the start in the way they end, but then polish and the definition of taking it to the same quality of what we're used to seeing in the intentional route. There is a point where you have a chance, like you could do a piece of work like that extends, and then you can do a second pass on it and then apply all the sort of methodologies of the intentional route, if you like, and benefit from all what that world has to offer. But I think what I like about that way of starting, we're all searching for ways of innovating and new formats and new stories and new layouts and unusual things. But we also want things to be or to have the same sort of finish or quality that we're used to seeing in traditional methods. So I think like there's it never hurts to mix the two worlds. Like I am, for example, I just copied a sort of a weird shape into a location, and then I'm now carving it to suit its where it ended up, sort of thing. So it become a bespoke sculpture, but it still was a nice starting point for me. Starting points is a great principle, and I think like all these playful jams and ways of thinking are just addressing the challenge of how do we start.
Yeah, BAFTA, the Young Game Designers, their website has a really nice little thing that helps you kind of find some start points for a game. Like it sets some parameters. It's a really nice little feature to, it's always worth checking out. Sort of has like a randomizer that tosses out some ideas in combination with each other. It's cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so Sealord's spiky midsection. How are we doing?
You have about 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Cool.
But we'll have you back again.
Yeah, and can I maybe if you don't, I know you always have like lots of amazing plans, but you can get me in sooner if you want, because I can continue, in a couple of weeks, or if you don't have.
No, we would love that, and we might let that one even run over a bit.
Yeah.
Today we can't, but we will make sure that in the future you can.
Yes.
24-hour Kareem stream.
I can keep going.
I mean, if you like,
I can keep.
if
going.
you want.
No, I definitely. I think it's almost my ideal style is just you time based. You just keep going and then you keep refining. I like.
Oh, we'll definitely have opportunities for longer streams in the future. I would love to do another long stream like we did at the beginning of Early Access. And also getting the community involved. I think seeing everybody stream on one special day was really fabulous. Like getting to watch like Tap Giles and Neon the Coder and Alexa and Elle and everybody stream is really fabulous. Keldon is cats.
I like.
Kareem, you would love. You haven't watched Kelby Jones' stream. He has cats, and they come on the stream, and sometimes they wear ties. It's really great.
Wow. Wow.
Kareem loves cats
I love cats.
and dreams, so it's a nice.
So much. See, one thing I'm doing now, which is a nice note to end on, is that, it's after you do a faceted sort of like odd shape, it's very nice to clean it up. Like, so you go in and you just do things like that, so it starts becoming, have more streamlined. So the faceted stage is almost just like almost this equivalent of sketching in sculpture, and then you try to anything you can reduce, like in cars, and that sort of anything you can take back to a less noise, you do that. But in the beginning, I just chisel it around.
It's very satisfying to watch. Like
so fun to watch. This
Yeah.
sort of thing. Really good. Do you think he's going to have like an emblem?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're definitely
my
gonna have to
God.
put some thought into what the emblem of our sea god is.
Yeah, yeah,
Talisman.
yeah. But definitely, see that's the spirit we're looking. We sort of just this is almost like the first step of clay. We're putting just wrapping it around the body.
Yeah.
And then we try to go in and streamline the shapes and get them to be more simple and satisfying results. So on that note, maybe we can add that cut here.
Well, as you wrap, I will just go over the final bits of like things and stuff. First of all, we need to have you back really soon, not just to continue work on this, but also because our current community jam is all about museums. And there's like some really cool stuff that people have been working on. And I have a feeling that you will really enjoy seeing the results of it.
I cannot wait.
Just, yeah. So we'll make sure that we bring you back on to see some of those very cool stuff.
Oh my God.
And let's see, what else do we have coming up? Streams as normal next week. And definitely tune in. There'll be some fun stuff. We also, as we alluded to in our newsletter, which if you haven't signed up for, you totally should. It's a nice way to hear what we're up to and see our interviews with people in the Dreams community. But also, we have still some cool stuff coming up this year. So that's all I can say for today. But we're excited about it, and we can't wait to share the news with you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Things and stuff.
on that note, on that last cut here, let's end on a nice
On that
note.
one, yeah,
On
we'll be
this.
having Kareem back to show us more of this creation, give him a little bit more time to do some of the sculpting and awesome stuff that he's working on for his sealord.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's lovely to have this time together with you all each week. And we will see you on Thursday, where we'll be showing off the best of things that you make. So cool.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.